So I just had a pretty huge epiphany. So for the last while, I've been struggling with health issues, and from the perspective of German New Medicine, every single bloody, mucousy symptom is actually a symptom of healing. So when the stress is happening, you create a tumor, for example, and then once you resolve the stress, your body utilizes fungus and bacteria to break down that cancer, and that's really painful. There's lots of inflammation, mucus and blood. And so in my situation, it's really quite intense. So I ended up needing surgery, and they had to open up my gut, with violence, with force, basically. They had to cut me open, and I had to be defecating out of a tube that came out of my stomach, basically. And importantly, I had to have that happen for 3 months. And so for 3 months, I had this coming out of my stomach. And strangely, for 3 years, I was at university. Due to my dad's guidance. For another 3 years, I was living with my dad after university. And then for 3 months, I was in hospital, having the surgery. And I would say for about a year, maybe a year and a half, possibly 2 years, but about a year-ish, I was like desperately ill. Like couldn't eat, couldn't do anything, couldn't drink, and just dehydrated, malnourished, and all that. So the point is to do with like threes, right? But anyway, because it's my dad is forceful. My dad manipulates and does his will like a man creates like God formed us out of clay, And so the fix for that was like that. They needed to get a knife and open me up to set things straight as I resolved the conflict I had with my dad, which is that, he's not on my team. He doesn't know me. I can't communicate with him. So coming to terms with that, I get so and so ill because I've built up all my life that he's on my team. I understand him. He understands me. He's on my side. And all of that tissue that had been building up over those years at university and wherever had to just be broken down and destroyed. And it expressed itself in different ways over time because I was very close to my dad. It first started in the colon. I had loads of ulcers there, so that's tissue being taken away. And then something changed in my mind, and I forgave him. I overcame through my conversion to Christianity, and suddenly I have no problems in my large intestine at all. But then everything came into the small intestine, very deep and profound, where no one can really access it or look at it through scans. It's one of the most difficult places to get a grip on. And that is where the next coming to terms with what's going on. So I was coming to terms with, in my profound deepness of myself, I can't connect with my dad, and he is not there. And eventually, and my mind is just kept reinforcing that no, he's a Christian. You'll get to understand him. You'll really connect. You just got to try one more time. Say it one more way. Approach the argument with one more, but no. And so the more I kept having this hope, maybe with not enough love potentially, but the more I kept having this hope, the further I was getting into, and then having the hope destroyed, I was getting into building up and breaking down, which just caused absolute havoc. And so eventually I was separated from my dad, and I was able to totally break down everything as I strongly came to terms with the lack of, reconciliation, essentially, the lack of true connection. So I got this surgery for 3 months, and my biggest symptom was that I couldn't stop producing stuff, right? So, first of all, I wasn't able to eat, right? And so I would just constantly produce vomit, constantly produce diarrhea, just constantly, every few hours, no matter what I took or ate or did or anything, just constantly, stuff is just coming out. And when I was in the hospital and they cut out the troublesome part of my gut, it was the same. I was producing like 8 liters, 9 liters, of stuff, and it just wouldn't stop. They gave me all the, like maybe 60% of the highest dose ever recorded in NHS history, to slow down. Oh, what's happened here? I kind of glitched out there. Anyway, they gave me so much medication to slow everything down, and so I would stop producing so much liquids and stuff, but it wouldn't work. So essentially, my whole body was breaking itself down until I got to 50 kilos. I had no more muscle, no more bone, no more anything. Couldn't, and then, it started to get a bit better because that's just the way it is, yeah. But here's the thing, that surgery, which saved me, right? That saved me coming to terms with the fact that I cannot connect with my father, that he is not there for me, right? That surgery was done by a woman, and I wouldn't allow any man to do it. It was only this woman that could do it. And so that's interesting because I wonder, in my life growing up, who that woman represented, which, saved me from just dying because of the lack of real connection. And that was my mother, right? So I go into the arms of the woman, of my mother, and in that love, I'm saved from the father, right? But then I now have an interesting situation, right? So we talked about how it's like a manipulating, forming from clay situation, and that's why, like my father is, and that's why I had to get a huge surgery, right? But what's happened now is that I've married a woman who's a lot like my mother. She has saved me from, my father, but both my mother and my father, both my mother and my wife are in the same ways like my father. I cannot connect with them. They are not in the spirit sufficiently, for connection, for true understanding with each other. And so I always have this hope that I can reach them, and I'm never able to. And so then I'm building up and I'm breaking down and I'm getting symptoms, right? And so what is curious, right? The symptom this time around is, it's interesting, okay? Because we talked about how man manipulates, made from clay, image of God, that kind of deal. And consequently, knives and stuff were needed for this opening, for this healing. Because also a lot was inputted into me. I spent a lot of time with my dad, and he would feed me very well for a good time and then would stop to feed me. And so a lot of tissue was built up. It was very extreme, okay? And it was all a devilish trick after all. Anyway, what's happened now is that the exact same procedure to help heal me has happened, right? But naturally. That's to say, woman came from man, from his rib, right? And, so formed from him, formed from that clay. And so now coming to terms that I can't reach the woman in terms of, the wife who is like my mother, I can't reach them. I can't even go back to the surgeon that helped me with the first condition. But what's happened is that the exact same, so near to where the issue is, another hole has formed, right? So with the first surgery, they gave me a new opening so that things could come out, right? And so this time it's just happened naturally, with a perianal fistula, a tunneling has happened naturally. And from here, just loads of blood and mucus and stuff is coming out constantly as I am finally losing hope. And all that tissue that was built up over hope with my mother, hope with my wife, all of that has to go because there is no hope. Because no matter how many years, no matter how many attempts, it's just not happening. And what I need to do is practice love more than hope. And I need to love, firstly, myself in the way that you love a friend or a son. I got to take care of myself. I've been given this body. I've been granted life from above, and I got to take care of myself and love, right? Starting with protection of myself, not living in falsehood, living in as much reality as possible. Because the more falsehood you're in, the more likelihood you're going to get hurt. You're going to fall over. You're going to get in trouble, right? So loving myself is living in reality, getting closer to the truth which is Jesus Christ, right? And the truth is, I cannot reach these people. They cannot be reached by me. We cannot connect. It's not a true thing that is edifying. So consequently, it has to be let go. And so my body's like, okay, we're going to let it go. And we're going to break down everything that we've built up during this time of this false hope. Because the mind and the body, they will reflect each other. And I've been feeding my body a fantasy notion of life for so long that it's built up all this fantasy nonsense, which is not the best and not the most adaptive. And so it's going to break it all down. And what better way to break it all down and get rid of it quickly by then creating a new opening where all this stuff can just get out, get pushed out. It can come into the blood and deposit itself in the waste systems like sweat, pee, the large intestine, the poop, tears and stuff. Because also there's an element where I can't really cry about it, because I kind of get it. And I've already, come to terms with it in a lot of ways. Not sufficiently enough, but in a lot of ways. And if I was going to cry about it, I would just cry about everything forever. I'm kind of over that. And so this is kind of like a weeping, that my eyes can't do. And there is an element where it can't... I mean, anything's possible, right? God works miracles and stuff. It can, in one universe, it can close itself up and heal itself naturally. But I don't think that's going to happen. An example was given to me, like, you can fix a hole in the roof, which is the mind, fixing its, not opening up these growing and healing tracks from this false notion of reality. So you can heal that, but you still have to clean up the floors, mop up the floors, or else you're going to get mold in the house, and the wood is going to rot, and the house will lose integrity. So consequently, I'm in the healthcare system to have it looked at and to have some kind of surgical intervention. And I'm also on the path to get... something's telling me I shouldn't voice that, so I'm just going to keep that to myself. But yeah, after that, these are some of the biggest hurdles to overcome in life. So we've overcome the father, the old man, and now we're overcoming, the woman who has come from the man. And I'm almost at 30. I'm in my 30th year. And so if I am to overcome these things truly and properly, then I'm entering my 30th year as a clean slate, as a vessel prepared for reality, for truth, to dwell fully. And that's an exciting prospect, because that's honestly all that I've ever wanted and all that I pray for the most part. when I do pray. So very exciting.